Hey guys, I'm Hayden Wilde and we're here on the Greg Bennett Show. If there's any questions, reach out and we'll answer them for you.
Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show, presented by Any Question. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and I've just finished an absolutely outstanding conversation with the young Mr. Hayden Wilde. And I came into this episode knowing that Hayden was one of the great athletes of the future, coming in here with Olympic bronze, a Commonwealth Games silver medal, winning the Super League Series in 2022, and just missing out on the World Series title this year and coming up in third place for that. I knew his resume. What I didn't know is just what an outstanding human being he is, and just how his love of family, prioritizing his mum and his brothers, just how he's always got them in mind when he races, and he's so grateful for racing. Make sure you listen to the end of this one, because he really is just an amazing person. And, I came in, like I said, knowing that he was a good athlete, and I was a bit of a fan, and I've left thinking, yep, I'm a massive fan of this guy, and I want to see him really, take on the world in years to come. But just really a fantastic episode. I want to thank you all for listening and sharing the show. It really means the world to me. It truly does, that this show has grown to where it is, and that is because of you and your willingness to share it. Please keep any feedback coming, or any advice you have, or any suggestions. I do appreciate it. You can do that on any of the social platforms out there. And also go check out Any Question. Any Question is the place where you can come on and ask any of the world-leading experts any questions and get their video responses. At the moment, we have, over 750 experts across, 15, 16 different channels, from sport and healthcare to photography to pets. Come on, ask questions, listen to any of the answers that are already there. There's over 30 to 40,000 answers already, and you can search and discover great content there. So go to anyquestion.com and go check it out, or you can download it on iOS or Android. That's Any Question. All right, enjoy this one, and remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. All right, well, today I am joined by a young man who is truly just spearheading the next generation of superstar athletes. This guy's absolutely remarkable. At the young age of 25, his resume is just truly outstanding, especially when you take into the fact that we've got a COVID year mixed in there and everything else. Listen to this. Olympic bronze medalist, 2022 Super League Triathlon champion and runner-up in 2021, 2022 World Triathlon Series overall third with wins in Leeds and Hamburg WTS events, a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham after what I think was a pretty crappy call, which had him sidelined and gave him a 10-second penalty, and we all missed out on what was going to be an epic sprint for gold. But he ended up with the silver there. And then add to this, a national 5K champion for New Zealand with a personal best for 5K of 13:28. Just to put that in perspective, that's a 2:42 per K pace, or for Americans listening, 4:21 per mile pace for 3.1 miles. It's absolutely off the chart, insane. Anyway, it's just a true honor and privilege to have him join me today. So welcome, and thanks for joining me on the Greg Bennett Show, Hayden Wilde. How are you, mate?
Oh, really good, mate. How are you?
Well, pretty good, although you say really good. And we just were talking pre-show, and you hung up with COVID.
Oh, mate, it's been a long time coming. I thought I was one of those special hybrid breeds, and it finally caught me after all these years. So it's better late than never, I guess, and a perfect time. And it's off season, so why not?
Oh, mate, this is your first time. Wow, you are a special person. I think my wife and I, we counted. I think we're a good at least 3. we're thinking we stopped testing after a while. We're like, oh my
God,
God,
like a Belgian triathlete, mate.
Is that right? They've all had it that many times as well, have they?
Yeah, I know Martin and Yella very well, and especially my girlfriend being from Belgium, so you get all the gossip. But those guys have had it. Oh, tell you what, can't remember how many times they've had it, but
yeah. But you've been sick a couple of times this year too, mate, and they weren't COVID. The other times you've had. Yeah,
I'm normally really good with sickness, but I guess just being stuck in New Zealand for a few years and not getting that kind of exposure to the world for a few years. Post comms, I was out for a good week with a pretty decent virus. in bed, freezing my ass off, and I think it was about 40 degrees outside. And
Celsius, everybody, 40 Celsius.
Shocking.
That's brutal. But you know what? I it's not just you. I feel like these last few months, sicknesses just went rampant. And look, I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, so we were just sick the entire time with kids. But everybody I speak to, it's like the RSV virus or everyone's got names for all these viruses now. But it's almost like we locked ourselves up for, a year or two. And then it was like, okay, if you guys are going to lock up, we're going to get you pretty good now. And yeah. And especially when you get pretty run down, obviously with all the travel and all the racing and pushing yourself the way you do, it's probably a matter of time. Did you think you were sick at all going into the grand final, last week, or do you think it came after?
I felt good. I felt good coming into it. Actually a couple of weeks before, I didn't want to acknowledge it at all, as I didn't want to make an excuse, but I had a fever for a few days, and I was closely watching my heart rate variation, and it was about 48. Wow. Around 48, and I'm normally about a 32, and that was only for a couple of days. So in a way, I think it was actually a blessing in disguise. It got me off my feet a week after Super League, and it actually probably gave me some well-needed rest, and that's why I didn't use it as an excuse, because after that week, I was hitting some awesome numbers. I was on target for a good one. Coach was saying when I do this one specific bike session, he was like, "That's probably the best one you've ever done." So I knew I was on. Yeah. And then got to race day, and everything felt good. Had a great swim, and then the legs just they just weren't there at all. I was struggling to help the boys in the bike group, and I'm normally up there, and everyone was like, "Man, it was so weird not seeing you up the front on the bike pushing." So it just goes to show that being 1 or 2% off at the top, it just you definitely pay for it, and it is what it is. And I think it's quite nice. It makes you kind of come back next year hungry for more, instead of going out there winning everything when you're young. It just keeps on making you hungry and keep coming and coming back. So I'm looking forward to next year already.
Well done, mate. It shows great maturity too, by the way, just having that kind of mindset. I'm sure it kind of, you went in, it was kind of between you and Alex Yee for the world title, and you basically, everyone was talking about, you've just got to beat Alex, right? And then if he beats you, he's got to beat you by more than, one spot, I think. And then Bergier comes and says, "Okay, guys, I'm gonna turn this up a little bit." And it was quite remarkable what happened. I don't know what other word to put with it. It was like, Alex finished 4th and he had to finish 3rd. You finished 6th and you had to finish 5th. I mean, did you understand what was going on? Did you know what position you had to be in, or were you getting any information, or did you,
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew that. And if Alex wasn't feeling good, I was like, just out-sprint him. And I was just burying myself just to try and conjure up some sort of finishing touch. Yeah. And when Matt went past, I just had nothing, and he went past, and I just had no breath. I was like, "Oh no!" and that was the last 500 meters, and I was like, "Oh man!" I know I just lost it right there, and there was nothing I could do about it.
That's all right. That's all right.
I was just but I don't know why a lot of people were underrating Leo. He's a talented athlete, and he's just, I always call him Mr. Consistent. He's just consistently up there, and he had the French around him, and the French were like, "You know what? We want to bring the title home. Let's go and bury ourselves and just go to the front." And they sure did.
Really? Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's been such a incredible rivalry between you and Alex Yee for these last couple of years. You guys are doing the Super League and the Olympics, of course, and then the Commonwealth Games, and so it's become kind of like, that's why the conversation, I think, for largely, we weren't talking about anybody else. It was kind of like, well, that's the exciting part, and this is going to be. And then to have Leo do what he did was, we were like, "Oh, what?" And then we're all trying.
I think everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that guy." I was like, "Oh man," it was the one guy I was concerned about, because I know all the French can swim, and if they get away, I know they're gonna sacrifice their race to get them up the road. So it was really cool to see, and that break, we were pushing hard, and they were just so our group was just too big in a way, and that group was just the perfect size for that course, and they were just absolutely giving it. And having, Jonathan up there, he was the organizer of the pack, and he was really pushing it hard to get away. So it was great to see.
Yeah, well, mate, it made for great racing, but I did feel for you, mate. I was cheering for you, and we talked about doing an episode, a month or two ago, and we figured let's wait till after Commonwealth Games, and you had all these other things, and then I was like, let's wait for the end of the year. So I really appreciate you coming on the show to chat now. Like you said, I'm just sitting up in bed with COVID, so I do it today. I'll do it today. I was like, okay, let's do it. So I really appreciate you coming on, mate. And it's just great to get inside the mindset of a champion. And it doesn't always have to be when things going absolutely perfect. And obviously they're not perfect for you right now with COVID and, finishing third in the World Series when it was yours or Alex's or anybody's really. There was quite a handful of you. But I love how you put it earlier. It's like, but man, I'm young and it's still giving me something more for the future now. And that's a great way to start looking at 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if any of us won the race, it would have been the youngest world champion since Alistair. So, like, it just puts that in perspective. Yeah. 9 years ago, the last person that did that. So it was like, well, like, still young. Harvey was doing it when he was 36. Why not? I've got another 10 plus years if I really wanted to. If the body holds up, let's just take a step back, have a look what happened in the last couple of years and say, hey, like, man, the improvements have just been awesome, and just kind of hope you just kind of keep coming back and hope for that consistency,
Yeah. So what was the focus coming into 2022? I mean, you covered so much with the Super League Comm Games, World Triathlon Series. What was, when you came into this year, what was your focus?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely Super League champ, and it was kind of like it was a bit all over the show in a way. I was like trying to fit as many things in as possible. First year out of COVID, let's go and get it. But the main priority was Comm Games, and then whatever happens after that is just a bonus. So Comm Games, I really stacked my World Series up right at the beginning, just so I can kind of focus on Comm Games and not having to stack my end of year. So that actually worked really well. So got my 4 races in before like a good month out before Comm Games. So I was lucky that, the races went well and they were consistent. It was the first, the second, and the second. And then coming into Comm Games, I was in great shape. Obviously that little bit of controversy there, but still, it was honestly, if not the penalty, probably my best race I've put together with an amazing swim. Just got off the front of the bike and went for it, and then just tried to hold my own on the run. We had a bit of a game plan, but obviously didn't know until I got the penalty until about a lap and a half in. So that was that was another story. And then it was Super League. I've always wanted to take the Super League title, and this year with the 5 races, it was all about being consistent this year, and stoked to kind of take that one out. But one of the big focuses was world champion. And that kind of, that World Triathlon series. And I guess in the middle of that as well, I got offered to do a PTO. So I just love racing, and it's like sometimes it's probably maybe a bit too much, but I'm quite lucky. My body responds quite well to a lot of racing, but also I can kind of get up the next day and train. Even though I'm kind of suffering, I can just kind of work through that suffering and try and just keep that kind of consistency up to kind of not fade throughout the year. Yeah, well, it was such a solid year. Let's just recap for people that maybe are listening and don't know about the Commonwealth Games. That was the priority. Tell us, what was the penalty for? What happened there? Yeah, so essentially, the sprint distance and the super sprints becoming so fast, and, every second counts, coming up to that top level now. And I was coming into transition. I literally told myself when I came in, I was like, all right, dismount as early as possible, because there's no point, you've got 3 guys around you. There's no point in, messing this up. And I know that all the cameras will be on you. So if you mess up, they'll catch it. And, you got off the bike, happy days, and then boom, there's my bike coming into transition, and I ran to my shoes, and then pretty much essentially wrecked my bike. And as I racked my bike, I had my hands on my helmet, so the clip of my helmet, getting ready to unclip. As soon as I locked my bike into the wheel kind of rack, I came down, and as I was coming down to my shoes, I unclipped. So I had my hands on my bike helmet the whole time, and then unclipped, put my shoes on, and off I went. And not until second lap. The plan was, in my race tactic, was to take that first lap, a little bit easier, high tempo, and then really bring it home on the last lap. So that's why I kind of lost 8 to 9 seconds on that first lap, just to kind of put a lot of effort in on that bike, and I wanted to save myself a little bit on that last lap. I knew that if I was running high tempo, Alex would be running thresholds, so he'd be putting a lot of effort. And then I got that bad news from the coach saying I had a penalty. I was like, as much as you kind of just wanted to chill out and all that, it was I knew my race was done from there, and it was Alex's to lose. So it was unfortunate. I was more gutted that Alex didn't get that final finish, and the triathlon community didn't get that finish they all wanted to see. Would have been like first kind of event of Comm Games, and you kind of get a race like that. It'd been amazing to see.
Yeah, how do you think you would have gone in the sprint? Come on.
I felt pretty damn good. My plan was to let Alex catch me in the last K at the top of the hill. And I looked back, and he looked like he worked really hard to catch up. And I was like, I feel pretty good. And he knew I had a penalty, and I came around the corner. I was like, man, my legs feel super good right now. I know I've lost a few sprints against Alex, but I think this time I might have been more prepared for sure.
Oh, mate. And you did protest it, right? But they didn't. I mean, did they have any evidence? Because you can't see.
It's a tough one, because everyone thinks I had the magnet clip on, but actually I just had a standard bike clip on.
Yeah, the magnet clips aren't allowed, are they? Nobody has magnet clips.
So we have got the magnet clips, but the new US safety law. Yeah. So as I was part of Team Specialized, we got all these new helmets for the Comm Games. We got the new Evade, and our team manager JB was like, so these new helmets don't have the magnet clips because it's under US safety standards that you're not allowed to have them anymore. So I had the normal clips. So everyone probably thought I had a magnet clip, which probably made it look like I already unclipped, ready to go. But actually, just had a standard clip. But it was just one of those things, eh? But you live and you learn from it, and it was a very long process. A good 3-4 months. The lawyers and stuff were like, you know what, we can keep pushing it, but I think we'll come back to the same point we were. Yeah. It just came down to it was just like a judgment call on the day, which is, as the lawyer said, that is very hard to get around, because it pretty much says it was in the field of play, and you can't do, they can't do much about it. So in fighting scenarios, is probably the hardest thing to ever fight, even though, if you have pure evidence, it's still, very hard to push.
Well, mate, I think you did the right thing by at least protesting. I think you would have felt probably it would have been nice to win the protest, but it also would have been not the way you wanted to win too. So it's kind of like, okay, let's just move forward, right?
And I told my team as well. I was like, if it takes the gold medal from Alex, no, don't even try and protest. But if it gives us a double gold, hey, that'll be awesome. But if it took the way Alex, because it wasn't his fault at all. So if it took away his medal, I was like, nah, cancel that. I'm not doing that at all.
Good man.
He's a great mate of mine, and you don't want to do that,
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. And, you guys have had some epic battles. Let's go back to, the Olympics last year, 2021. It feels like a lifetime ago, but 2021. It's only just over a year ago. And you'd come out of, New Zealand, which the lockdowns were unbelievable. My brother was living in New Zealand at the time, and and so training would have been difficult. You weren't able to leave the country to go do any races, and basically you went from sort of a COVID year and a half of lockdown straight into Tokyo Olympics. And where was your head at when you were heading off to the Olympic Games? And, what were you thinking? Were you thinking I'm in good shape and I got a shot here, or where were you at?
Yeah, it was hard to tell. In 2019, I had my breakout year in a way.
Yeah.
I got third at the Tokyo Test event, and I was like, oh man, like we could be on for a good one if I keep this kind of form up. And raced in Mooloolaba in Australia World Cup, and the day after
that's right
that race, it was just like our Prime Minister said, if you don't get home on Monday, you aren't getting home. So everyone had to rebook their flights and get on the flight that night. And we got home, and then we were there for just over a year and a half. Couldn't do anything, watching everyone race in a COVID-friendly environment on the World Series, and it was really tough. But it was actually, I think you could have taken it in two ways. You could have either taken a decent break off and not really invest in this time that we have without racing, or for me it was just a perfect time. I knew what I had to improve on. That was essentially swimming, swim power, swim pace. And if I can improve some aspects on the bike and the run, I'd be pretty happy with that. So I was there with my swim squad. So my coach Liz Van Weerle and Matt were there, and I was with them all the time. So to get pushed by a swim squad for a good year and a half, that was great. It was definitely increasing my strength and speed. And I'm solo overseas, so to have my coaches there all the time and making sure I'm fine tuning that technique and keeping good posture and form, that was great. And having one of my best mates, Sam Tanner, who actually went to the Olympics for the 1500 meters. Him and I train together really well, and we both have, the same sort of specific goal, but in two different sports, and we're coached by the same coach. And we were just training super hard. I would give him the 1-2 and the longer stuff, and he would give me the 1-2 and the short. In the short stuff. So it worked really well for us. He'd, give me a 20-meter head start and over 200 and 300 meters, and he'd have to try and chase me down, and then I'd try and have to hold on to him, and then vice versa on the the long stuff. So it was actually really good fun, and I always loved training with Sam, and that got us super quick heading into that. And as soon as borders opened, we got on a flight to Leeds, and my coach was like, okay, like honestly, don't worry about what the result is. You're going out there and you just go out there and race as hard as you can, and I want you to blow up. So that was initially the intentions, pretty much. So we went out there. I swam as hard as I could. Had one of my best swims. I was about 15 seconds off the front and got on the bike. And my initial ideas were just to attack, defend, and making the bike quite difficult. And then just go on the run and just absolutely give it some. And then about 2K before the finish, that's when I blew up. So finishing that race in I think fourth. Fifth, I think it was fifth place.
Right behind Eliza and Van Riel, Pearson, and
so just after that, I was like, okay, it's perfect. I now know
but
what I need to do.
Can I interrupt? When I say you were fifth, you were also one spot in front of Christian Blumenfeld, who was in sixth. That's the one. Yeah, he didn't look too happy. I love it. Go on. Sorry, mate.
And then so I knew exactly what I needed to do. That was essentially my last race before the Olympics, and got cracking in Girona, and with a bit of time also in Belgium. And it was great that my coach came over for 2 months leading in to the Olympics. And I actually did not a lot of people know this, but 3 weeks before I raced in a bronze Continental Cup 5,000 meter race in Belgium, just out of Zug, and I was about 24 hours in deep in training, and I ran. It was a windy day, it was wet, and I got fifth place. And I ran a 13:30 on that day, so just a couple seconds behind my PB. So I knew I was on.
Jeez, that's
for a good run
running.
if I got off the bike relatively close to the front. So, yeah, I think I knew that coming into Tokyo, if the stars aligned, I'd have a good day out there. And yeah, there was a few times in that race where I was like, oh boy, I've really messed this one up. But it all came pretty well at the end. So
let's fast forward to the Tokyo, because I want to know your mindset when. Well, the four of you, Johnny Brownlee, you guys were running. What was your mindset when you were 5K in Olympic Games? You've just run, like you just mentioned, a 13:35K in the rain and wind. I mean, what's going through your head at that point?
Yeah, so honestly, if I actually tell you what happened pre-race, I was one of those guys that nearly jumped into the prop of the boat. So I did about 200. I did 200 meters of max effort.
And
got back to the pontoon. Couldn't believe that.
Oh, mate, that was the worst. I remember we were all watching it, and it was like none of us have watched a great sporting event for a year, and I was so excited. The Olympics are going. Boom, the race starts, and then they pull it back after you all jump into a boat that was in the way. That's right.
Honestly, so I was so focused that I didn't even realize that boat was there, and I was literally the one right beside the prop. I was like, oh man, I'm having an absolute blinder here. And then I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, because half the field isn't even in the water.
and they let you go so far.
Oh, I'll tell you what.
It was like, was it a good thing or a bad? Like, I was wondering, did it affect your nerves in a good way or a bad way? Did you feel like was there enough recovery after because it was like a 200-meter effort?
Yeah, well, I kind of put in the mindset where we got put in the cooling tent like for a good 20 minutes. So I was like, well, actually, this could actually work to our favor because we're sitting in the cool tent for as long as we can, and we're trying to keep our body core down and all this nonsense. So it actually kind of warmed the arms up a little bit. So that's what I was kind of thinking, but. I don't know. I had a pretty decent swim for my standards, I think it was about 40 seconds behind. So it was pretty good. But the disaster was I was actually made it in Alex and Christian's group, but someone kicked my helmet like 5 meters away from my bike.
Oh, brutal.
And so I had to quickly catch that. And, Christian and Gustav got onto the front of the group, and then I was essentially no man's land, and I thought that was my race done.
Yeah.
Did one lap solo, like about 400 plus watts, like just freaking out. And then I look back, I'm like, oh, yep, Casper Stones, Gustav, Mario Mola, Eliza, Javi Gomez, boom, this is my pack. And then so I kind of just pulled up a little bit, waited for them. And then we just worked so well together. And we were just like, all right, boys, just keep pushing, keep holding this 30-second gap. And as soon as that chase group catches Vincent's group, I guarantee you it will neutralize. As soon as that gap was caught, we bridged up essentially in half a lap because the whole race was neutralized. So moving on to the run. I tell you what, it was if any day you wanted to get into the flow state, it was that day. Oh. I just felt amazing. It was just, the crowd was out. Just felt one, it was an amazing feeling. Like everyone's like, oh, how do you get to this flow state? And you don't really know sometimes, but when you're in it, as you'd probably know, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And I was if any race, I was pretty stoked I got into it and into this race. And yeah, man, we were just chopping Ks, and we weren't really kind of thinking about it. But I guess, we got to like the last lap, and we were kind of looking at each other, but we're like, we're going to keep this pace on. Gustav and Alistair, Johnny, sorry, we're just behind. So if we start playing around, we could, really kind of mess us up. So we kept the pace on anyway, but I think we got it into a bit of a metronome state. So when we started attacking, it was kind of like... Well,
you started the attacking, if I remember, right?
Yeah, I did. I did. I went for one, and I just kind of went for as long as I could, and I don't really think it was like a massive increase of pace, and then it kind of went backwards, and then like Alex went to the front, and then Christian was behind us. We're just like, oh man, like surely this looks like he's suffering big time.
It always looks like he's suffering. It's so hard to read the guy.
I'll tell you what, it was impossible to read him. And Alex and I were like, yeah, we've got him on the ropes 100%. We got this. It's first one.
Were you talking? Were you talking at all or no?
A little bit. Well, actually, when Christian attacked, he was behind me.
Yeah.
And then he kind of crept up into my shoulder. And this is when Alex was leading. And then I told Alex, I was like, oi, he's going.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. And then so he looked to his side because I think Christian was trying to do a sneak attack. And then because Alex and I worked the whole time. So I was like, all right, come on. Him and I, we know each other well. Like we've been working this whole time. And then old mate just does that. So then he attacks and we were like, oh, yeah, we got onto him. And I was like, oh, yep, this won't last for too long. And then I was like, oh, yep, 200 pass. Alex drops a touch. And then I try and go around. And then all of a sudden I was just like, he's still going. He's just still going. And then we couldn't respond. And I think that mentality side comes in where Alex and I were just stoked that we're going to be medal contenders, and Christian's been at the games before, so it was either getting a gold medal or passing out on the ground. So I think that's when that young mentality came in and said, oh, we're going to get a medal. How cool is this? And I think that was probably our Achilles heel in a way. Yeah, in those moments of just being completely focused.
Oh, you're suffering too. You're absolutely suffering. People, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, it's just going to. It's like when you're redlining and you've been redlining for minutes and minutes and minutes. It's like, if you can't, you can't. It's like, and that's why I've always found like when I finish a race and maybe you look back and go, oh, maybe the best thing to do is like that couple of hours as soon as you've crossed the line, write down exactly how it felt. Because the next day you wake up going, oh, maybe I coulda. And it's like, no, read your notes. I guarantee you it was brutal.
I think everyone at the games was mostly disappointed because everyone did so much heat training and sauna
and
prep
it was cool.
and chamber cheat. And it was just wasn't like, this wasn't hot. Like it was hot, but it wasn't like we had these flags. And these flags were determining how hot it was, and I don't even think it got it to the orange flag, and where everyone was so gutted.
Well, my wife was like that at the Beijing Olympics. She'd done so much heat work, and she was so light, and she was so really ready for more of a race of attrition. One which is like, and then it didn't happen. I mean, it was warm, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what we were expecting, like high 30s with 90% humidity. It wasn't anything like that. And that was one of the things you're like, damn it, I needed it to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, mate. So, after that, what was the reaction, especially in New Zealand to, I think were you the first medal New Zealand got at that Games? I think you were, weren't you?
Yeah, so it was like our first medal could have gone to one of our swimmers, but he just missed out. So I knew when on that start line, I was like, oh man, like if you do well, you could be New Zealand's first medalist. And it was next level. Hey, like I think. Yeah, it was just, I think we had a good drought of medals for a good 4 or 5 days, and I was the only medalist for that time until we got onto the water, and then it started really coming in. But like back home was just mental. Like I was all over billboards and people were just sending me stuff, and you kind of turn into like, pretty much a household name. And, this little kid that was a landscaper from Whakatane, and now he's on the billboard in the biggest city in New Zealand. You're just like, what the heck's going on? So
I love that.
It was mental, but it was definitely I think one of the coolest parts was coming into the New Zealand camp, and the whole team presents you with a haka. That was like being a New Zealander and given that to you it's a very spine tingling, emotional time.
I love it.
Being from kind of that culture, and it was awesome.
How much was obviously I raced the generation of Kiwis before you, and I'm very close mates with Hamish Carter and Bevan Doherty, and we all had that many head-to-head races, that whole, and even I was fourth in the Olympics where they went 1-2, and I was trying to hunt them down. But you were 7 in 2004, if I'm correct, or 6 or 7. Did that event impact you at all in the sport of triathlon, or did that ever, was that any reason you got into the sport?
Yeah, so it was actually crazy because I even, watching the Rio Games, I had essentially no clue what triathlon was. The only reason I knew what on-road triathlon was because I was doing XTERRA. So I was an off-roady boy and did multi-sport, which Braden, a guy in New Zealand, Braden Curry, did. So instead of swimming, would kayak, and that's what I would do. So my first on-road race was only in about 2017, where I raced in Gisborne, the only kid with a wetsuit because I had no clue how to swim. And it was only like a 200-meter swim, and I just got absolutely smashed, like completely smashed. And it was 2 years of just complete grind to try and get that swim up. So that was kind of when I made the change. And then, obviously you're going to get into the sport and you just see how much rich history we have with Bev and Doherty and Hamish. And, actually Hamish at the time was our CEO in Tokyo.
I remember that. He was on my show right before going. He actually picked you for a medal, I think, on the podcast we did together, yeah.
I did listen to that podcast when you had like the 4 Olympic medalists. And then he was the only one that was really kind of playing to his cards and said, no, not picking someone. I think he knew how well I was running.
Well, it must have been after the recording because we all stayed on and chatted and had a bit of banter. He was definitely preaching you big time. So
well, it was actually really good to have him because he was obviously he was at the village and he was. I've read his book, but to kind of hear it firsthand from him was awesome. He's done it all. He was ranked number 1. Mm-hmm. Coming into Sydney, obviously didn't have the race he wanted to, and then just coming back and absolutely giving it some in Athens. And then, he was just explaining, the ups and downs and lows. He was just a great mentor to have, and it was just having him there your day up before the race and talking me through a few things and just acting it as just another race. I also had someone that I was working with, like my coach Liz has been to the Olympics for swimming, and one of our most decorated swimmers, Moss Burmester, we're kind of from the same town, and he was just just saying it's just another race, and to hear it from 3 Olympians, you're just like, all right, like there's got to, it's just another race, and that's kind of how I did it. Was just I'm more so an underdog. I'm actually just Tokyo for me was just to try and get to Tokyo and then just use it as some experience, and from there it was just just use it as another race and just give it some. And I think that was my super strength is, I just literally acted like it was another race.
If you ever get a chance, I don't know if you've listened to Hamish Carter on the episode I did with him, it was really good in terms of understanding mindset and how he changed his behavior almost. Like he talked about like 2000, how did Simon Whitfield get the gold medal? He didn't deserve it. It wasn't deserved. And obviously we're all mates with Simon and everything and it's all fine. But it's like, hang on, the guy that wins the race deserves it, not the person that comes in world number 1 or has his track record and everything else. And he had to actually change his whole perspective on the way he went in to the next Olympics. But it's a really great episode. I don't know if you've listened to it, but I was very impressed with the guy. But let's do this. I'm really curious about your background even before. We've looked at this past 18 months, but when did your sort of passion for endurance sports, when did that all start? And tell me a little bit about finding that passion.
Yeah, so long story short, essentially I was just a fat little boy that followed my brothers. I played hockey, turf hockey. I played football, and that was pretty much it. Just followed my brothers, just did the average Joe sports, and just wanted to, and just something kind of flicked the switch and started running. I just started doing a lot of running to get fit for my average Joe sports, and And then I was like, oh, there's this thing called Get to Go, and Get to Go is essentially a team of 4 guys and 4 lasses, and you'd be in a team, and you'd be on an expedition for 2 days on an island, and then you'd be running around in the New Zealand wildland for checkpoints, and that's what I was aiming to kind of do. And event racing in New Zealand is huge. Like you go into we just love the adventure side and orienteering, and we're all about it. So that's kind of how it all started, was just getting fit for hockey. And then teacher said, hey, you're looking relatively fit, you want to try and qualify for our team, and qualified for the team. And then my teacher again was like, hey, come to some athletics events, come to do a duathlon. So I picked up the bike and started going pretty hard on the bike, and all of a sudden actually an ex-junior world champ, Kieran Coates, he said, hey, like, you should do triathlon, man. Like, you're an amazing runner. You can ride exceptionally well. I'll teach you how to swim. So essentially he got me in the pool. I was terrible. I couldn't even do one lap without kind of being exhausted. And then just, I was like, oh, yep, like get into the pool at least, once or twice a week, 3K, happy days. And that's what I did for a good couple of months. And that got me into shape for XTERRA Rotorua. And from there I went to Maui World Champs a couple of times, won the under-19s 2 times in a row. And then I made the kind of a switch to try and pursue a career in XTERRA on the off-road stuff. I then did that year as well, did a race called the Coast to Coast, which is a 260K race.
I know it well, mate. I know it well. That's one of the epic adventure races. Oh, yeah.
So I did the 2 days. I was too young to do the 1 day, but I did the 2 day. And that was kind of my last multi-sport race until I went, full on into the XTERRA. And I met this old fella who used to swim at our pool. His name's Eddie, and as old veterans do in the swimming pool, they just love to give you tips on the swimming. And he was giving me tips on how I should swim better. And then all of a sudden, he was my coach, and I was like, "Hey, I'm swimming this much." He's like, "Okay, you're gonna be swimming about 5 times a week." And then we'll do a 1,500 meter time trial. I think I did a 1,500 meters in the pool at like 24 minutes. It was shocking. Mm-hmm. A few months after that, it got down to like 21. So I was like, perfect, that's cool. And that's kind of when I made the move to Tauranga, which is 45 minutes down the road, and picked up a job as a landscaper. So to pretty much essentially fund my career, where I didn't really come from a very wealthy family, so I wasn't going to take any money off my mum. This is my sport, this is my career. If I wanted to do it, I'd do it my own way. So just up at 5, swimming by myself, to work from 9 till 3 as a landscaper, so digging holes, building retaining walls, putting some grass down, happy days. But I was surrounded by such a cool crew, so actually the days went pretty fast, and I was like, hey, I'll just use this as my gym session, and we'll just call it that.
I love that. I expect this so much from Kiwis. I'm sorry. You guys are you were always such mongrels and tough buggers to race. I just love that. Keep going, but
yeah. So I got, it's just one of those funny things. You get your digger's license and happy days, off you go. And and then that afternoon I'd either do biking or running. So I look back at it now and have no clue how I was doing it, but this is essentially when I found my coach, who I've been with for 6 years now, Craig Kirkwood. I went up to him and said, hey, I want to get to the Olympics. Can you help me out? And I think he saw some sort of flair in me that was like, okay, this kid really wants to do it. He wants to push it hard.
What year was that? And how old were you?
Yeah, so that was in 2017. And I was just first year out of high school. So, not even 20 yet. So
yeah.
Still 19, left home after high school at 18 and moved down the road and pursued the dream. And he was like, yep, let's do it. And then he introduced me to my swim coach, who I'm still with now, Liz Van Weerley. And then she laughed at me because she just laughed at the amount of swimming I was doing. Like I was still swimming, 3 times a week, about 3-4K. And she's like, all right, we're going to make you do for 2 years. You're doing 7 sessions a week. You're doing about 5 and 6K, and you're going to get drilled by the swim squad. I'm like, oh, yay, fun. I love swimming.
I know. You and I are much the same. Running was my favorite. Bike was a second, very close to the run. And the swim was like, unless I'm in the waves, catching waves and surfing, I was like, I got to do it.
Exactly. So, fast forward a few years. I put 2 years of grinding, and my first race was at the end of 2017. I had enough money to get to Asia, and I knew it was going to be make or break. So for us, it was Asia Cups, which is essentially Continental Cups, which is kind of that third division for ITU. And had some pretty good results, had some top 15s, got some good points, and so for New Zealand to make it to the World Cups, which is Tier 2, you must be within 3% of the winner in 2 races, and I ticked that box. And it was my first World Cup in New Plymouth. Didn't go too well. It was a rainy day and I got into a crash and had to limp home, but still finished. Went to Mooloolaba and did pretty well. I got into a breakaway with Tyler Misterchuk and 2 Aussies, and then they all of a sudden just stopped riding, and I was like, oh, bugger it. We're 20 seconds up. I'm just going to keep going. So got to the end of the ride and I was about 20 seconds up and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm leading a race. I can't believe it. Got to the end of the race. I think I got like 8th that race. And I was like, oh man, that was awesome. And then, came home and just kind of lived the rest of the year out in New Zealand. And then my first year in Europe was 2018, where I raced in Cagliari in Italy. That was my first European race and got onto the podium, and the rest was kind of history. I got picked up by Super League and they loved the way I raced, and I was like, oh, sorry, I'm back in New Zealand and I literally can't afford to fly back to Europe. And they're like, oh, no, we'll sort you out. Flights and everything are paid. I'm like, oh, put me on the next trip.
I'm rolling in it. That's awesome.
First, I had to ask the boss if I could get off work.
That's so great. Are you still working as a landscaper now, or did you put that on hold for the moment?
No, the boys let me take off annual leave for the last 3 years, so it's all good. But they said the job's there whenever I want to come back.
Yeah. You mentioned your mum and your brothers. How long ago did your dad pass?
Yeah, so my dad passed about 14 years ago. So he was a fertiliser pilot, and I was at my best friend's house and got the news that I had to sadly come home for no reason, and rocked up to the house and kind of thought it was like a bit of a party going on, but a little bit opposite of the party. Got given the bad news. My dad was in a plane accident, and it was definitely a very big time of the I guess my life. I was about 10 years old. I kind of knew what happened, but in a way I didn't know really what happened. I guess looking at it now, I'm very kind of okay to talk about it, and I think it's great to be very open to these things and not let them eat you up inside. And I've always said to people, I'm very open to it and I don't mind talking about it. But it was definitely hard, but I think it definitely made me the person I am today. It made me tough, resilient. Just looking at my brothers, how they helped me as well, and my mum, raising 3 teenage kids by herself, but then also my stepdad jumping in. It was a tough time for everyone, but we look back at it now and it's just made our family so solid. And my brothers are just kind of, it's awesome because we used to hate each other in a way, as brothers do, and we used to fight and all that sort of nonsense. But now we're just great mates, and they just love seeing me kind of be so successful, and they also it's also good having them there as well, because they keep your head level and give you as much crap as they need to. So it's great to have that. So but yeah, as I said, like, not coming from a very wealthy family, but also having this sort of, you know, big thing happen in your life, I think it's made me the athlete I am today. And I go into every race just give it absolutely everything, because, you know, it could be your last race of your career. And that's what I kind of go into racing. And I think that's why I'm such an aggressive racer, and why people may or may not like it, but that's kind of how I head into racing, is I'll give it everything no matter what. I won't hide. If I'm hiding, I'm definitely suffering. So
mate, well said, really well said. And it's, you know, being through similar situations, it's amazing how these traumatic experiences can actually have a silver lining, you know, that it does bring you stronger to other loved ones and that kind of thing. So and the way you're approaching the racing by going, this could be my last, and so I got to give it everything. Man, I love that. You know, that's what you want to be living. It's kind of, I've said it on this show, I like to start every day with my gratitude. You know, I start with my gratitude, giving thanks for my health and my family and my work and everything else, but also then going, this could be my last day, right? And you have that, and you kind of say it to yourself over again, and it's amazing how you go, okay, if that's the case, let's get going, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So looking back, you know, you've really, it's a pretty short career. But like I said in the intro, it's packed with great performances. You know, what have been, if you said, okay, the highest high moment and the lowest low? Let's start with the high. What's the highest moment you've had in your career to date?
Oh, I'd have to say it would be the Olympics for sure. Yeah. I think. Yeah, like, it was me literally. I've actually got it in my Snapchat highlights. It was in 2016, and Snapchat. I was literally, like, you get those Snapchat highlights that kind of pop up onto your screen all the time. But
okay, yeah.
The young generation will know about it.
Yeah, sorry, buddy, I don't have Snapchat, but I love it. Go on.
And every year it pops up, and it's it was in 2016. It was in Rio Games, and I was literally sitting on the couch, just got back from work, and it was the highlights of the triathlon. And I was like, and I just had a caption, like a cheeky caption saying, oh, one day I'll be there. And then, 5 years later, I was there. So,
wow.
Just being there, but then getting a medal was, like, I just wanted to get on the New Zealand team, but to come away with a medal was like, whoa, like, that's pretty awesome. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. And what about, you know, the low? Have you had any what's been the lowest low for you? And have you learned anything from it, ideally?
Yeah, I've had some pretty, like, I guess, looking at performances, I think my lowest time was trying to qualify for the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. And I had the best swim I've ever had in my life, and got into transition. I got quite beaten up in the water, and came into transition, obviously getting ready for the bike, and decide to start putting my running shoes on, and looking around, I'm like, oh no, what am I doing? And so I had to quickly chuck the wetsuit off with the shoes and get on my bike, and that was the pack gone, and that was my selection for the Commonwealth Games. Essentially, you know, vanishing. So that was, it was a pretty hard one, that one. Yeah. But I think also, I think if I look at a sacrifice, you know, as a sacrifice side, just missing a lot of, you know, like, I didn't grow up in the sport, so I've got so many friends outside the sport. So I've missed so many kind of you know, engagements with my friends outside the sports, and that's kind of one thing I really do miss is like, I actually caught up with two of my best mates in London. They're actually from my hometown, and they literally know completely nothing about triathlon. All I know is that I race it and I do pretty well, and I love that stuff, you know.
Of course.
And it's not talking about shops. So I really miss, you know, my mates outside triathlon too, because they kind of bring you down to earth, and it's not all about triathlon. You can just talk with them. So I really miss those opportunities and those times of seeing my mates grow up and not kind of spending that time with them because you're always on the road. So that's kind of it's been one of the hardest things for sure.
Yeah, the traveling and the living out of the bag, it can get old. I know with us, we just got to the point of going, okay, we need 2 home bases, one in North America and one in Australia. And that made it a bit easier, kind of going 6 months. But it does get old. It does get tiring. But it's like if your purpose is still in place, your mates will come to you, I found. Your good mates will travel. Like you said, you met up with them in London.
I found that out, don't you worry.
Yeah. And I love that you've come from this background where there hasn't been a lot of money and there's been, pretty tough times in the family. And now I think you must be one of the highest paid earners, definitely prize money earners for 2022. You're now not to spill the beans on everything, and not talk shop, but it's just great to see you making a solid 6-figure income. Have the sponsors all jumped on board? Has that been good for you too?
Yeah, it's been really good. I've got actually some new partners coming along next year, which I would love to tell you, but
we'll wait for the surprise.
You have to wait until December at the end of the year. But it's always been loyalty for me for my partners, and I want to be loyal to the brands, and that's what I've always been about. Being with Specialized for a good 8-9 years, and all my other partnerships, it's always kind of giving back to them because I know that they picked this kid up that kind of was doing nothing, but they saw potentially something, and it's been great. So I always love to be so loyal to people that have been so loyal to me. So I've never been kind of all about chopping and changing, but I think when I first kind of got into the sport, all I wanted to do was make it to the Olympics, and that was that. And if I could make something out of it, that's on the road, that's awesome. But I've always told myself the first things I ever want to do if I became successful and made some money was help my family in a way. Yeah, as I said, we haven't had such a lot of money in the family, and unfortunately, when my dad passed, there was some financial things that was hard with the house, and obviously my mother bringing up 3 kids through high school is not a cheap a cheap kind of thing to do. So there's some kind of things that my mum needed to owe back, like the mortgage of the house. So my first thing was to help my mum fully pay off the mortgage, and so she could come over and essentially watch me race, because she's never been able to afford to come overseas to watch me race. So the first thing I did when I did one Super League was like, hey, Mum, send me a bank account because I'm going to pay the mortgage off, and so you can live a non-stressful life, because you don't need stress when you're 55 or whatever. You should be able to live a pretty awesome life and get to enjoy your kids' kind of careers. So yeah, I did that to help Mum, and hopefully she can come overseas and watch some more races. So that was kind of my big thing. So everyone's like, oh, what are you going to do with your money? I'm like, well, give it back to the family and then look after myself after that.
Mate, you're choking me up over here, mate. That is absolutely beautiful. Really, very cool.
That was definitely one of the things I wanted to do when I was a kid. So she's helped us a lot. So why not give back, hey?
Oh, what an incredible story, buddy. Mate, this has been really fantastic just chatting with you. And, you and I haven't actually met, and I kind of reached out to you on Instagram and said, hey, would you come on? And you were very receptive, and I truly appreciate it. I want to finish up with, a few questions and just maybe some opinions and that kind of thing, if you're up for it. So, okay, I got one kind of question here. If you could have dinner with anybody in the world, 3 people would be great, non-family. Okay, so non-family, living or dead. Who would you want to have dinner with?
Oh, that's a toughie.
It is a toughie.
Chris Hemsworth, because I just think he's pretty crack up.
Isn't he the best? Isn't he the best?
He's great.
That's a good choice. Good, I like that one. Yeah.
Will Ferrell, because it's just Will Ferrell, and that's just fantastic. Like and I'd have to say I don't know. I'll come back to you on that one.
Just invite me, mate. I'll be awesome. I'll make it really fun dinner.
Yeah, I'd say you want to come along.
I love it. But those two, I think if you're going to keep in the entertainment realm, if you added either The Rock or Mark Wahlberg in that group, I think you'd have a really fun dinner.
That's true. Yeah, either The Rock or one of those guys that actually pretty crack up, to be fair.
That's awesome. All right, mate. Here's the next one for you. Where do you see yourself in 3 years' time?
Oh, where do I see myself in 3 years? Well, hopefully finally have not as much of a gypsy in Europe and have myself a place to call home somewhere in Spain where I normally do my training. And I guess that's a few years after Paris. So hopefully I can kind of have a nice easy year, but somewhere just having a year off, giving back. I've always wanted to give back to kind of the sports. So I kind of want to, if I do leave the sport, I'd like to still kind of keep in an active role and help kind of like the next generation. So I'd definitely like to kind of do something like that, like maybe start up my own event or start my own foundation in a few years' time.
Very cool, mate. You're a good person. How about opinions? And I don't know I want to know your thoughts on who do you think is the greatest athlete of all sports of all time, man and woman. Ooh. Can you do that?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, like I'd say someone like Kipchoge, because I know how fast he runs, and that is ridiculous. I could probably do it for. I could probably keep his pace if I trained for it properly for a half marathon, and then I'd be done.
There's very few people in the world that could even say that, mate. Most of us are talking about how many yards we could get, how many feet.
It's mental. I'm just like, I've kind of calculated a few times, like if I could train, I could at least do half.
That's pretty awesome though.
I did in lockdown actually. I tried to go for the New Zealand hour record, and it was 120 meters away. So I did 20.26 kilometers in an hour, which is like a relatively around 61 pace.
Wow. With a
disastrous headwind, and it was an absolute disaster on the running track, but that's Auckland weather for you.
Yeah,
that. But I would have to say for the women's side would be, she's a cyclist. She's won 280 stages, like a few Olympic medals. I totally forgot her name.
That's right. It'll come back to you in a moment.
Unbelievable record. But yeah, someone like that, just like to be that consistent over your career, you've got to be something special, you know?
Yeah.
I think for me, I think consistency is better than that one-off person.
I agree.
You got to be, if you're consistent and you're always turning up to every year and being there any meek, then I don't know. I can't pronounce it in Dutch. I'm terrible, but yeah, she's unreal.
They're two great ones. Let's finish with some rapid fire. You ready?
Yep, ready to go.
All right. One book you would recommend?
Hamish Carter's book.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Two most used apps on your phone?
Probably Strava and Garmin Connect.
Nice, I love it.
Maybe Instagram.
And Instagram, yeah. Well, you're pretty quick to get back to me on Instagram, so that was awesome. All right. What time of day are you most productive?
Mornings.
Yeah.
Between when I'm in New Zealand, it's always swimming in the morning because that's what's random. That's why some squads do in New Zealand is they swim at 5 and might as well carry on. So I'll normally finish most of my training in New Zealand by 12.
No, it's awesome. You just wrap it up quick. All right, first job.
First job, shoe salesman.
Really?
Yeah.
In a sports store or just
a shoe store? Yeah. In a shoe store, and it was honestly, it probably had to be harder than my landscape job because it was just you're in a mall trying to sell Nikes, Asics, Sauconys, and then you're just standing all day and you're in a mall, and it was mentally fatiguing. So I needed a change, and that's when I went to landscaping.
I love it. All right, out of 10, how cool are you?
Oh, I'd have to get at least, I'd probably make like maybe a 3.
A 3? Come on. Come on. You've even got a nickname, the Maltese Falcon. How can you give yourself a 3? My goodness. Oh, we got to work on your confidence there.
We'll go 5, eh? We'll meet you halfway.
I know. That's such an uncomfortable question, isn't it? All right. Who would you want to play a movie of your life?
Like I would say Chris Hemsworth, but I think my arms are probably a bit too big for him. So
yeah, you want to get someone that's built a bit better. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
All right. Which decade of music is the best?
Oh, 2000, early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
When, Eminem. I kind of like my rap. So it was before kind of the rap that came in that kind of just like repeats itself over and over. It was kind of Dr. Dre, that sort of stuff. But I'm a big fan of like kind of relaxed music too. Like we got Sticky Fingers, who are an Australian-based band, and Alley. Go and check those guys out. It's like kind of vibes, very Kiwi, relaxed surfing vibes. It's good.
Mm-hmm. I like that music, but apart from that, I don't think you and I could probably do a long car trip together. I think our music choices.
I got a big genre. If you want to crank some classics, Queen, I'm all for it.
If you could be transformed into one animal, which animal would you choose?
Well, I had to say Falcon, wouldn't I? Or I said to be a bit disrespectful to the nickname.
Who gave you that, by the way? Was that from Super League and was that Macca or one of those guys?
Yeah, it was Macca's right-hand man, MG.
Oh, Mick Gilliam. Yeah. Great guy.
And I was kind of just behind, and he's like, "Oh, here comes the Falcon." I'm like, everyone's like, "Who the heck is he talking about?" and then all of a sudden, everyone kind of realized he's talking about me, and I was like, "Oh, right." And then I kept on getting these like little videos sent to me about like the Maltese Falcon. Essentially, this dude was called the Maltese Falcon because he was a war hero veteran, and he flew a plane to look after the the Maltese Islands, and he would come around the back. So I was a crap swimmer, and I'd be at the back, and he would attack his enemies from behind. So that was me on the bike attacking my enemies from behind, and then getting to the race at the front. But yeah, he would kind of go right under the radars and then attack from the back. And
what a great nickname! That's a nickname worth keeping. Well done, Mick Gilliam. If you're listening, buddy, we go way back too. I know Mick from the '80s, so he's a great guy, and I love that. I love that name. You got to keep that one. All right, 2 more. How many episodes of the Greg Bennett Show have you listened to?
4.
Oh, we're going to have to push that up.
But potentially, actually, probably more, because I used to sleep in I used to live at my coach's house, and essentially I used to live in his office on the fold-out couch for like 3-4 months of the year when I come home, and I just like walk in after a hard day of training and just be like absolutely smashed. But he would be in his office listening to podcasts, and essentially it'd either be Greg Bennett Show, the Brad Bear Physical Performance Show, or like a running podcast.
That's awesome.
So I've actually probably heard more subconsciously. So.
Well, Brad Bear, big shout out to Brad, and people should check out his show. It is really amazing. Okay, last question. Greatest movie of all time?
Oh, I'm like my girlfriend kind of dislikes me for this because I don't really. I suck at watching movies, but I'm a Marvel fan, to be fair. Yeah. I do love a bit of Marvel.
How good are they?
So oh man, so good. And then, it's just great. Yeah. Like you have like from Avengers to Thor. I kind of like that sort of superhero movie sort of stuff. I don't know why, but
no, because they do such a good job. Because they've got action, humor. They've got a reasonable plot. Oh no, the whole thing. I never thought I'd be into them either. I'm a 50-year-old man that loves them.
Love it. But Peaky Blinders goes pretty hard.
Oh. You and I could sit down and watch Peaky Blinders together. There we go. Yeah. There's our connection, mate. I love it. Yeah, that is the best. I even went out and bought a 3-piece suit after watching that. That's so cool. Very, very good. Have you watched Chariots of Fire?
No, but I've heard it's good.
Yeah, I think you'd enjoy that. It's that's probably my favourite movie of all time, and it was one I watched in the 80s and early 90s probably 2 or 3 times a year. I loved it. I don't know if it's aged very well. I'm sure it's probably not that great now, but in the time it was. But mate, this has been fantastic. What's next for you? Bit of a break? And
before I got COVID, I was going to conquer the world of cyclocross and race a few races, but now I don't think that was. I think I was just going to jump into the deep end and see what it was like with the big boys. Yeah. But essentially, I was going to race a cyclocross race where there was about 80% of running.
Oh wow!
But yeah, it's not going to happen anymore. So I'm just going to put my feet up for a couple of weeks and yeah, I just kind of cruise really. There's a few kind of Kiwis in Leuven, which is like the high performance centre of Belgium essentially. And there's meant to be a few good kind of cross country running races there. So I might do some cyclocross racing, some cross country racing. Yeah, obviously in Belgium for Christmas with my partner, and then in the new year, we'll head to Alpe d'Huez for a ski trip.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool, mate.
Should be fun, but it's a scary thought, but there's only 12 weeks until the World Series opener in Abu Dhabi. So
is that all it is?
Yeah, it's very early for this year. Starts in March, but then there's a big break until Yokohama, which is the second stop, which is normally the first stop. So everyone's like, what?
Oh, that's awful.
We have to start early.
Yeah, you've had a late finish and an early start. And then you got a little break, and then it's all about collecting Olympic points and everything else like that. Or have you already qualified, or how's that work for you?
So for the New Zealand qualification, we must podium at a World Series, and then podium at the test event for automatic selection. If you only do one of those, which I already have, so that's kind of like the B tier of qualification. So it's very hard to automatically qualify as a New Zealander, very similar to the British qualification. So unfortunately, if you medal at the Olympics and you get a World Series podium, it doesn't mean anything. You just got to
keep charging.
Go and podium at the Tokyo test event. So keeps you hungry.
Well, mate, I'm excited for you. And honestly, I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat. So I really appreciate you coming on in the evening in Belgium where you are. And just, last minute, I wrote you this morning.
Honestly, no dramas. I'm actually at the house by myself. The missus and the whole family's left me to go and race Clash Daytona. So
they're here because I'm in Florida. So Clash Daytona is only an hour north from where I am. But
my girlfriend Hannah DeVet's racing, so it's her first long course race, and she races for Belgium. She's kind of around that ranked third, and she's quite she's 24, which is in ITU and the ladies right now. It's actually it's very young. A lot of the top ladies are around that high kind of 20s. So I think she'd do a lot better when she's at that long course. She's got the engine for it. So I'm very excited to see how she goes. And she's had a pretty rough few years with injury of breaking bones and head concussions. So just kind of hopefully she can tick the book off and finish off the year with a high. But we'll see how it goes.
Oh, mate.
I see Leo Bourget's pulled out. He's not feeling that well.
Oh, really? Well, Vincent Louis is still there, right? Vincent's still looking to race. I think he's probably the man to beat. We'll see. This episode will come out after the race. Everybody will be like, guys, we already know the results. Stop talking. But, mate, this was really great. And, I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person one day. I'm very excited to watch you commit to racing over the next few years, especially looking, towards Olympics and everything else. You've got so many big things on the horizon. Yeah. But, mate, I'm a huge fan. So, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. I've always, it's definitely one of the podcasts I've always wanted to be on. So, no, thanks for having me on.
And for everybody listening, you can find all the show notes and timestamps and everything else at bennettendurance.com/media.
Sweet.
Thanks a lot for listening. If you enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.